Good evening, everyone. The reading of The Happy Life, psychographed by Divaldo Franco, by the Spirit of Joana de Angelis. Your ownership in relation to your earthly assets is relative. In a transitory world, what is yours now will have changed hands tomorrow. Use but do not abuse the resources at your disposal. Do not become a slave to what you hold for a few moments, and you will not suffer when it passes to someone else. The only permanent assets are the treasures of the sentiments, culture, and virtue. The gospel teaches, store up treasures in heaven. Let's close our eyes. Let's pray to Lord Jesus that bless our speaker tonight, and also that open our hearts and our souls for the teachings, so we can take those teachings to our daily lives. Amen. Tonight the topic is mediumship, and we have Marcio Lasaro.
Hello, everyone. I always like to start saying that we thank God and Jesus for letting us and helping us to be here. We also thank the benefactors of the Spirit Center and the people that invite us and give us the opportunity for us to study more and to come here and share with you what we have put together. And tonight we will talk about mediumship, and it's not our intention really to cover the whole subject or to be in deep dive or to be talking about this in a very, very precise or comprehensive way, but rather to go and give an introduction to the topic, so this can stimulate everyone to learn more, because the only way for us to learn, especially in Spiritism, it is not to participate in this kind of lecture. This kind of lecture is very good, but only one talks. I talk, you listen. When we study in our study groups, I talk, you listen, you talk, I listen. And that's the best way for us to learn. But today is a lecture, and we will continue like this. So tonight, you will listen, and I talk. So before we dive into the topic, it is important to point out this book, the Medium's book. The Medium's book was published in 1861 by Allan Kardec, and is the second book of the Spirit Codification. First one, I hope everybody remembers, is the Spirit's book. This is the second, it's the Medium's book. And it is, there are 32 chapters in this book, and it is divided in two main sections. First part, it is an overview of Spiritism and a discussion, and it is a discussion of the many theories used to refute and discredit Spiritism. Second part, comprise a detailed classification of many paranormal phenomena and descriptions of the mechanism. So it contains really a lot of information about mediumship and mediums. But it also contains a serious warning against unguided use of mediumship, especially when it is for simple curiosity or lack of seriousness. So this book will explain to you a lot, maybe everything that we need to know in this incarnation about mediumship and medium. But it also will guide you how to put in practice, how to do it in a proper way. So, and why we study mediumship in Spiritism? Well, mediumship is actually part of the main principles of Spiritism. This is just a list of the principles in Spiritism, and we see mediumship in many of these. Like, the spiritual world exists. The spirits exist, and human beings are a spirit incarnated in a material body. The spirits are constantly in relation with human beings, and of course, Jesus is the best guide and model for all humankind. So that's why we study mediumship in Spiritism, because it's one of the main principles. So, but the Spiritism is not really the first time that we see this event. We actually have, as far as we can go in history, we can get examples of mediumship, of communication between the dead and the living ones. So we see this in tribals and in like very ancient civilizations. We see this in the Bible, in the Old Testament. There is a passage in Numbers that says, Moses went to the tent and he heard the voice of the one speaking to him. Of course, here he is referring to God. We also knows in the other part of the books that Moses prohibit communication with the spirits. Well, if he prohibit, it's because it was done at the time, and it was possible to do it at the time. Otherwise, why would you prohibit something that it wasn't even possible? The Oracle of Delphi was consulted by ancient Mediterranean people for all their major decisions. So there was somebody in there that would talk and have inspirations and give people advice how to do things. Jesus also talked to Eli and Moses on the mount. He also expelled evil spirits. So we have many examples of this happening through the whole history. Muslim, they believe that their sacred book was orally revealed by God to Muhammad through the Archangel Gabriel. Orally. Joan d'Arc of Arc was directly by her spirit guide in order to play a very important role in the French army. And later on, she was condemned because of that. So we see these events happening through history. But it is important for us to understand what Spiritism talks and explains about mediumship. So the general concepts in mediumship, it is important for us to know. So the first one is medianimic. It's from the Latin words medium, which means intermediate, and anima. So, is the special faculty of being the intermediate between incarnates and discarnates. There's an example for this word. We say a medianimic communication. In mediumship, it is the exercise of the mediumistic faculty. Mediumship is one of the incarnate human being's attribute, which is used to communicate with discarnate. That's another example in the book called Evolution in 2 Words from André Luiz. There's also another very important concept, which is the median. In general concept of the word median is everyone who is in any degree influenced by spirits. This faculty is inherent to humankind. Therefore, it does not constitute a privilege. And then we ask about this, like everyone? It's like everyone is a median? Everyone is a median on this concept, in this general concept. Kardec, in the Spirits book, in the question 459, asks the spirits, do spirits influence our thoughts and actions? And their answer, surprisingly, is they often direct both. Their influence is greater than you think, for very often it is they who guide you. So they are influencing us as we are incarnated spirits, but we are in the flesh, and the spirits that are discarnated are influencing us all the time. So in this concept, we are all mediums. However, in the restrict concept, the medium is the interpreter of the spirits. So it's someone that is in between, that use their ability to communicate with the spirit and then with somebody else. So that's the restrict definition of a spirit. And here is, although most of people feel the influence of spirits to either a greater or lesser degree, this classification is only applicable to people whose faculty shows itself clearly and with some intensity, producing well-marked results. So a lot of times we will see this definition, and when we will be referring to mediums, we are talking about the restrict concept of it, not in general. But we should understand that we are all mediums. So let's keep moving and understand the levels of mediumship. There are several levels. 2, actually. Sublime exists or functions without the apparent manifestation. Like that picture, which is not a real picture, of course, right? Because we can't take pictures of spirits, but it's a representation that sometimes we're reading a book and we are in communication with somebody, with a spirit. That's one example. There is also this ostensive example or level, which is evident to the medium who can either be conscious, semi-conscious, or unconscious during the manifestation. So the medium, the person, knows that is acting as an intermediate. It might not have conscious of what's going on. It might have a little bit of conscious or absolutely total conscious of what's going on, but the person knows that is being an instrument, is being an interpreter, is in between the two. There are types of mediumship. First one is physical mediumship. And here there will be several types. So we'll go a little bit slow, and the goal again is not for us to memorize everything or to remember everything, but rather it is to stimulate that we all go and study the medium's book, not by ourselves, not alone at home, but maybe in the spiritual center. And there's this one over here. There are many others around here, and we can do this together, and we should do this together. So the physical mediumship, it is a form that creates physical phenomenon and can include table tapping, like this, levitation, which I'm not going to do it, and many other phenomena. The physical medium and the spirit work together to create and produce the physical phenomenon. This is important. It is not the spirit that is doing this by he or herself. It is a combination of both. There will be situations that the medium is not aware, but is participating. So there is this one, which we will say clear feeling, because I cannot say that word properly, but it's clear feeling. And by the explanation, we will understand what it is. The medium has the ability to sense the emotions and feelings around them. They can feel emotions of others, both in their mind, not in their brain, in their mind and in their body. So they feel it. Clear hearing. The medium actually hear message. The message they receive are telepathic, meaning that spirits will talk to them via thought. They can hear, but they're the only one hearing. It's not like is happening now that everybody can hear what I'm saying. It is they are the only one hearing. But it's so clear. It's just like somebody speaking to them. Clairvoyance, this one I kind of like. Maybe I can say properly, but it's clear seeing. The medium actually see images in their mind. They can see colors, shapes, objects, or pictures. They can see the spiritual world. And sometimes they can see with their eyes closed. Because it's not their physical body eyes that are seeing, it is something else, which we will cover a little bit. But they are not seeing with their physical eyes. So if they close their eyes, they can still see. Channeling mediumship, or voice and writing, the mediums allow their mouths and hands to be used to deliver message through speaking and writing. Many feel they are allowing their body or voice to be taken over by the spirit who they are channeling. And the last one, which is the healing mediumship. It consists mainly of the ability to heal by simple touch, by looking, even by a gesture, without the assistance of any medication. So these are the types that we can remember. We don't need to memorize the whole thing, but we can remember a little bit and learn more about in the future. And the types of medium, they're not just one type, there are many types. Right? So the mechanical, the medium is not even aware of what he writes, and of course he or she, right? And here use an example of writing, but the person is not aware. The medium is in absolute unconscious state. Semi-mechanical, the medium participates in both of these genres. He feels that his hand a boost is given, despite himself, but at the same time, he is aware of what he writes. The intuitive, the medium receives the thought of the spirit and transmits it. The medium is aware of what he writes, although he does not express his own thoughts. And the inspired one. It is distinct from the intuitive mediumship because the intervention is much less sensitive, which is why it is even more difficult to distinguish the proper thought from what is suggested. It is also included in people without the unusual intelligence, and this is not general intelligence, it might be about one topic. They have flashes of intellectual lucidity that gives them momentarily unusual easy of conception. Is that like bright idea that comes to you and you don't even know the subject that well? Those are the type of mediums. It can be, and it's not that somebody that is a medium will be one type only. It might be an event that happens one way or the other. So all these lines and all these classifications are for our understanding. It is because the way that we think, we need to sort things out, classify, and almost kind of like draw the boundaries for us. But it is not that one medium will be one and that's it. It might have different experience. But how we do the identification, how people come and say, you are a medium, or I'm a medium. How do we say that? And sometimes we may hear this. We all hear examples. Hopefully it doesn't happen here, but we hear examples that somebody went to a place and then they have an issue. They went there, described the issue, and the first thing they got was, you're a medium. Right? How people know this? Well, what Kardec said about it in the Medium's book kind of it should make us think about it. So he said that, unfortunately, until today, no diagnosis can be inferred, even approximately, that someone has that faculty. The physical signs in which some people think they see evidence are not reliable. Well, Kardec said that, so we should be careful when we put a diagnosis into somebody and say, you're a medium. Normally, this is done very fast with very little information. So we have to be careful when we do something like this, or better saying, we shouldn't do it, right? Because it is difficult to say that, to recognize. It is not by one event or one situation that somebody will explain to you, then you quickly come to that conclusion. Kardec continues, and there is a description saying that it does not depend on place, age, social condition, or gender. It can appear during childhood, adolescence, or in mature age. It can manifest itself in the spirit center, at home, in any religious temple, or even if in a person with strong materialistic inclinations. So there's no place for it. It's not that it only will happen here in the spirit center or in the church. It can happen anywhere, on the streets. So be careful with when we say things and trying to identify that somebody's a medium. With, of course, not the general concept that we say we're all a medium, because that applies to everybody, but when we say the restrict concept of a medium. Because a lot of times we see mediums having this signs, especially at the beginning. We see that this may happen, but they might vary to the infinite. So it's not just limited to this, but it can be other things too. Unexpected and emotional reactions, apparent sickness, shivers, moral or physical indispositions, excessive irritability. So we now all recognize ourselves with mediumship, or maybe not all, but at least myself. So it's not just that, but sometimes we do have those signs, and there is no reason, apparent reason, right? Because there is always a reason. But sometimes there is no apparent reason. Why I'm so irritated, and I should be happy, or I was happy a minute ago, but now I'm not. Or sometimes why I'm so sad, and I should be happy, and I was happy. And there is no reason, as I see, to be so sad. But why? So these may be a sign of mediumship. There are some truths about mediumship, and we should go through some of them. Not everyone possesses the same level of involvement. As experience is acquired throughout many incarnations and varies for individuals. So sometimes we see somebody like Francisco Javier. I always have a Brazilian pronunciation of his last name, but I think it's Javier, right? But Xavier in Portuguese. And we say, oh my gosh, I mean, that is really somebody that has mediumship. We forget that we have many lives. We have many incarnations. Maybe he reached that level through his incarnations. And what he's showing now is basically what he has accumulated through many lives. So we want to compare ourselves to him and want to act like him. But we need to understand that this is not something that you may acquire in one incarnation only. There must be an attunement between the medium and the communication spirit. And here is not necessarily that is a good one. So you need to be in tune with the spirit that you're going to work as an intermediate. And if the spirit's an elevated spirit, good for you. And if it's not so elevated spirit, I'm sorry to break that news, but you are in tune with that. It might be for a momentary time, but you are. So, trying to elevate yourself. Neither magic formulas nor special rituals will lead to the blossom of mediumship. All those magical things, ritual, no, nothing. That has nothing to do with it. It is simply constitute a manner of entering into communication with spirit. That's as simple as that. The level of respect or the intensity of devotion that mediums dedicate to the task is what will be used to appraise them. The level of mediumship is not related to the medium's moral or intellectual involvement. It doesn't mean because somebody is a very good medium that they are a very good person. These two things are not in direct correlation. So we need to remember that. Good mediums are those in tune with good spirits. That's what makes a good medium. But where is it located, the mediumship? So in the spirit or in the medium's book, we will learn that mediumship is based in the physical body, which will ease the partial emancipation of a perispirit. So the spirit of the medium recovers perceptions and spiritual faculties that are usually blunted by the material body. So we see this figure here, this representation on the left, and we can understand, right? It's a communication from an incarnated spirit in the body and the discarnated spirit, right? But hold on, there is an additional element here. It's called perispirit. And so, is it telling us that we are made of three things? Yes, we are made of three things. But how is that? So this is actually what happens on the schematic representation on the right. But hold that thought, because now we're going to go a little bit on what is this third thing that we were not aware or expecting that we have. It's called perispirit. And Kardec asked the spirits about perispirit. And initially he inferred about the elements of the universe. So he asked, are there two general elements of the universe, matter and the spirit? And the spirit is, the elevated spirit said yes, and God, the creator of things, is above them. These three elements are the principle of all that exists, the universal trinity. This is a schematic representation that we put together. You will not find this schematic representation in the Spirit's book, but this is just to help us visualize the three elements that exist: God, Spirit, and matter. So it's easy to define things if we use exclusion rules, right? If you think about this chair, of course, everybody will say it's matter, because I can see, I can touch it, and so on. But then if you think about the oxygen, the atoms in the air, you will say, what is that? It's not matter because I cannot touch or I cannot feel it. But in reality, it is matter, because it's definitely not God. It is not a spirit, so it must be matter. So with these three things in our minds, God, spirit, and matter, then Kardec continued to ask about this, and just for help us understand the two concepts, spirit and matter. Spirit is the intelligent principle of the universe, and intelligence is an attribute of the spirit. But one and the other are confused in a common principle, so that to you they are the same thing. The spirit is independent of matter, and matter exists in several states, including so ethereal and subtle that it escapes entirely within the reach of our sense. So there are these two elements, right? But then Kardec asked this question: is a person made up of anything other than the soul and the body? And the answer was the link that unites the soul and the body. What is the nature of this link? It is semi-material. And here when the Spirits is giving Kardec this explanation is because of his understanding at our understanding at that time, and that's what they use in the word semi-material. But by using that three elements of the universe, it needs to be matter, right? It is the intermediate between the soul and the body. This is required for communication between the soul and the body. The spirit can act upon matter and vice versa through this link. So that breaks the news that we have something that is in between our spirit and our body. When I say body, say flesh, right? So we have something in between. And Kardec continued to ask us, is this spirit uncovered and it is enveloped in a substance of some kind as postulated by some? Because the concept of something else, not the word perispirit, but the concept of a three type of body or three type of elements were actually present in history through many, many years. The Egyptians thought about that. The Greeks knew about that. They just call it some other names and they have some kind of definitions. But Kardec asked that, and that's what he mentioned as postulated by some. Right? The answer was the spirit is enveloped in a vaporous substance as you perceive it. And the answer continues, and Kardec comment on that. He say, as the seed of a fruit is surrounded by the perisperm, and if you don't know what perisperm is, don't worry about it. The spirit is surrounded by an envelope that, by analogy, may be called the perispirit. So that's actually the first time this word perispirit was used, when Kardec gave that name. And with that analogy, again, this representation we will not find in the Spirit's book, but it's just an analogy that the seed of that fruit, that avocado, will be the equivalent of the spirit. The perisperm, which is that part of that we eat, will be equivalent to the perispirit. And the skin will be equivalent to our physical body. So we are composed, or we are a combination of these three elements: spirit, perispirit, and the physical body. And the ones that are discarnated, of course, they do not have a physical body, but they do have the perispirit. So they are in two elements, and we are incarnated in three. So the perispirit, in summary, comes from this word. Comes from the Greek peri, which means roundabout, and the Latin spiritus, brief, or spirit again. It is the envelope of the soul. During incarnation, it serves as the link or intermediate between the incarnated spirit and the matter of his fleshly body. And during eroticity, it means that it's not incarnated, it is in the spiritual world. It constitutes the spirited fluid body. It acts as an intermediate to transmit and receive thoughts. So now that schematic representation on the right makes sense, because as incarnated we have three, and as discarnated we have two. And the way that they interact, the communication, the thoughts, happens in the level, or on the level of perispirit. So it's perispirit to perispirit communication. So with that, we continue with mediumship. So we're back to mediumship again, understanding that for a good communication, for the communication to happen, the communication happens in that level. Okay? So, but how about the appearance of mediumship? When does it appear? It can be spontaneous. You will not generate, normally when that happens, You will not generate great discomfort, whether physical or emotional, to the beginning medium. To somebody that is starting to perceive that, and that has nothing to do with age, as we learned, or as we saw that this can be in infancy and an adult, just as a young adult like myself, or some not so young, maybe like yourself. but it will not generate the discomfort, right? But there is another way too, which is called trial. This way is different. The mediums will experience emotional imbalance that will reflect in their physical bodies. Remember, the perispirit, which is what is the level that happens, has a communication with the spirit and the body. So when things are happening in the perispirit level, it influences both. So this is what this type of mediumship that starts this way will have a reflection on your body. That's why. And the spirit disturbance could occur, I cut part of it. It could occur as part of these trials. It is not that this is my faith. It is not that this is what is my future or karma, whatever we use, an expression. This is just how it starts. And we will see through this exercise here that why we should understand and practice and do mediumship if we are in this situation. Sometimes it is a wake-up call to us, right? Because it's a trial. This is not a punishment. Well, at that time, of course, it sounds like, and it feels like a punishment. As you're going through tribulation, you may see no future. You say, that's my future. That's going to be like this for the rest of my life. This discomfort will be terrible, but I don't see any way of getting out of it because it's so intense, it's so real. However, this is a trial, and this may be the reason or the motive to push you into a different situation. It is for you to learn, to study, and to develop and control it. So sometimes it's spontaneous, sometimes it's not. And when it's not spontaneous, it's not a punishment, it is maybe a push to put you in one direction. So you need that push. And that's what it is. It is always discomfort to be pushed. Most of the time it is. But it is important for us sometimes to get pushed in one direction because we get distracted in many other things. So, mediumship is a powerful instrument, but it can also be transformed into a regrettable source of disturbance, according to the spiritual and moral level of those possessing such resource. So, when we get pushed, or when we see that we are developing that, we have to do with responsibility. That we use that in our favor, not to gain things, because mediumship, as we will see, needs to be done to help others, but in our favor, that we promote our evolution, not that we go deeper and deeper into a hole. So we need to be thinking about how I'm going to use it. If I'm the instrument, am I going to be the instrument of spirits that want to push me to bad places? Or can I be the instrument of spirits that want to help me and others? So that's what we need to think about, how it appears and how we should proceed with it. And there are some warnings about developing mediumship. Kardec, in the Medium's book, will explain and give us many warnings what we should not do, and of course what we should do. Of course, we need to remember that we have free will, that everybody will have a free will. This is actually a blessing from God. It's one of the things that we should really remember, that we have free will. But of course, with free will, there comes responsibility. There is no more, I wasn't really responsible for that, somebody did that for me. Nope. You was the one that chose that. So what's the warning? Under no circumstance should mediumistic development be attempted through the aid of organizations that promote or promise fast and amazing results in just a few lessons. I don't know if you remember, but when I started, or for those that arrive a little after, tonight's goal is not to go deep into mediumship and then make you a medium or an expert in this subject after tonight. No, it is basically just to stimulate you to know more about the subject. So if somebody in some place will promise you that you will become an expert in this subject in a few lessons, it is a great opportunity to walk the other way. It is irresponsible to push for development if the person does not have any inclination to study the subject in the books that comprise the spirit codification. Because nowadays, the spirit codification is the best guide to study mediumship. And it's not biased to say that. It might sound biased to somebody, but it's not. The individual who is determined to put mediumship ability into practice, once it has appeared, must bear in mind the significance of this faculty. He needs to know that you will be an instrument, and can be a very good one. But if you take a wrong turn, it can also be dangerous. Although the mediumship may start at early age, it is inconvenient, and then here inconvenient means danger, to stimulate or develop the exercise of mediumship in children. Their body is not well formed or totally formed, neither their minds. They might be spirits older than we are. However, their body now would not allow them to think the same way we think. So it is too much responsibilities for them to bear at this point and to be making proper judgments. So if it shows up in infancy, we see it, we recognize, but we are not stimulating. And if it doesn't show up, do not try to develop or to start something. Wait until they reach a young adult age. But what's the purpose of mediumship? Spiritism has come as a framework to guide mediumship by disciplining and conducting it for the general good. In the book called In the Domain of Mediumship by André Luiz and Francisco Xavier, it has a little sentence there that says very nicely that we need Spiritism in order to control the mediumic energy in favor of our spirited evolution, as we control electricity for the benefit and comfort of our civilization. So one can say that mediumship or mediumistic energy is neutral. It will all depend on what you do with it. And of course, we all know that our actions will have consequence. If you use it for no great results, unfortunately, the consequence won't be good. But on the other hand, if you use it for a very good purpose, the results will also be good. So, and that's what is important to know this. Mediumship with Jesus. But we say, did Jesus really talk about mediumship? Did he? Say, I don't know if you really remember the New Testament, but he did. He made reference when he talked to Eli and Moses on the mount. He expelled the evil spirits. He encouraged the disciples to heal the sick, clean the lepers, and raise the dead. He mentioned all this. We had not made it up. I just didn't put the reference there, but you will find that he mentioned this in several occasions. He also recommends, freely you will receive, freely you will give. So he wasn't talking about mediumship, but that applies to that, because you didn't pay for it, right? Or maybe I'm supposing that you didn't pay for it, because if you did, it was free anyway. But you shouldn't be paying for it. So it comes to you freely. And why would you charge? Right? And we gotta stop here and think about sometimes when we say charge, we always associate with monetary factors, right? So we say, I'm not getting paid. There is no money coming my way. But I receive a favor. I receive recognition, fame. People start to do things that sometimes I'm not even asking, but I let them know that I will appreciate very much. So they do it. So I'm not receiving material things. I'm not receiving any money. My bank account is the same. However, I get a flower. I get something else. I get a ring, a watch, then I get a favor, lunch, dinners, and many things. I get a ride, not in a car, but maybe in a plane. Is this payment? Would you receive that if you would not be doing the mediumship? So if you would not receive that, that is payment. And you have to be careful with that, because there is no free lunch, right? So if you receive mediumship for free, no charge. And Francisco Xavier once said, in a sense, mediumship must be always accompanied, what's it? Say it again? Accompanied by inner improvement, because only the medium's improvement will enable the spirit to manifest in a better way. It's basically saying the same thing, that we need to associate mediumship with being better. And it's not that really concept out there that I'm better than you because I have more money, I have a better job. That's not it. It's becoming better as a person, as a human being. That's what it is. We need to do and use mediumship, if we can, to become a better person. And the only way to do that is by helping others. Because a medium is an intermediate, right? You are working in between. So how can you help be an intermediate, be something in between, if there is no other part? That's not a mediumship. That's not a median. You're not in the middle. If you're taking everything and putting yourself, there is one big part here that is lacking in your concept. So something is wrong. And that's why we say that mediumship needs to be with Jesus. Not in, but with. And why we say that? It is to take with responsibility and faith. Jesus once said in parable about the need to pray at all time and not lose heart. It is to level ourselves with others. If anyone desires to be the first, he must be last of all and servant of all. Kardec was not making that up. That's Jesus' words. It is to do good, expecting nothing in return, We kind of covered that topic, but since it's so important, we go over it again. And Jesus said, your charitable deeds may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will himself reward you openly. Right? Nothing in return. And we have to remember in the exercise of mediumship that this return, it is not always money, cash, something that we can see. Favor is also that. So, nothing in return. It is to do with others, or in nowadays words or expressions, to do as a team. It's like, do you want to do mediumship as a team, like we all get together and practice mediumship? Not just like that. But it's not for yourself to be isolated, because this is very dangerous to be isolated. When you are by yourself, you kind of lose that sense of, am I on the right track? Am I being used for the wrong purpose? So we have to be with others. When Jesus said, for where 2 or 3 are assembled in my name, there am I with them. And it's to be with continuous self-improvement. When he said, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. So continuous self-improvement. You will know more, and you will know more about the natural laws, the God's law. You will know more about yourself. And this will help you to become better, a better person. And to always do this exercise with Jesus. Not necessarily say, I only do this in the church or in the Spirit Center and in the place that we normally see Jesus. But no, it's the way you do it. It is always helping others, always putting others in front of yourself, in your own goals, right? Level yourself. Don't think you are like any special person. You might be. And sometimes, especially when something really good happens, people may say, oh my gosh, you are the greatest. This person was suffering for too long. And if it wasn't for you, this will never happen. But hold on. Remember, you're just the instrument. Yeah, maybe a very good instrument, but just an instrument. Do not put yourself too up compared to others. Because in reality, the spirits did the job. You just channel. So, keep that in mind. And we always do this. And as I said from the beginning and repeat in the middle, education. 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 When Emmanuel, I don't know if you know this story, but when Chico Xavier started, Emmanuel gave him or asked him for 3 things. Discipline, discipline, and discipline. He was talking to Chico, not to me. I may need education, education, and education, and discipline, and discipline, and discipline. I don't know about you, but education is always good. And a lot of times we see, we don't have, there are not that many books in English, so I can read. Sorry, there are. Spirit's book in English, Medium's book in English. The other 3 books, Recodification, also in English. I just didn't put the pictures here, but they are also in English. And there are many others. So here, there are some, I put the pictures there. And it's not a question that, oh, now I understood. This is for the bookstore to sell books. No, look, we do have those books here for sale. That's right. Okay, I give you that. But you can find all these books in PDF for free. And if you do not have the money or don't want to spend the money, go for free. you would find it. The U.S. Spiritist Federation offer those books for free as a PDF. Go in there. Actually, there is a very good tool called Kardecpedia online. You can put an app on your phone, and you don't need to download, but it's just the app, of course, but not the books. But it's very good because you have access to not just these books in Kardec's book, but you have access to many different translations. You have English, you have Spanish, French, and Portuguese. So maybe you used to compare if you like languages. Maybe if you want to go and deep dive into a subject, you can go and study there. The issue nowadays is that we are running out of excuse. So in the past, when we have to copy books by writing, at that time, it was very good to say, I don't have access to information because it's expensive. Nowadays, you can say, I do not have an excuse to not have access to information because in my case, it is in my pocket. And I can check it. I can read it anytime. So read a book if you like the hard copy. Read the electronic version if you are into that. And there is one more thing that's terrible. Audiobook. Now you can really read and learn as you're driving, stuck in traffic. Now you can listen to it. You don't even need to say, I do not have the time. I do not have the money. You may just use, I do not have the desire to learn. Then it's okay. I mean, okay in the sense of an excuse. But that's what we should do it. And of course, when we go through mediumship and understand about medium, the type of mediums, and we went through that different classifications, it's a lot of information. And we associate mediumship a lot with Spiritism. But we have to remember one thing. We are here in the Spirit Center, not for the phenomena. We are not here because a spirit combining he or his or her force with mine can lift this chair or can heal somebody or can talk to somebody or to myself. That's not what we are here about. Not about the phenomena. The phenomena will occur, but that's not the reason why we're here. The reason why we're here is this. The most important thing in Spiritism is not the mediumistic phenomena, but its principles and its moral consequence. That is what we are here. The phenomena is part of it, but should not be the end. And the same thing, if you are experiencing, or if you have experienced this, the reason why you experience this, or you experienced this in the past, that's not the goal. That's not the end. The goal, it is the moral consequence. That is the goal. And that is why we should be here. To understand what happens, yes, but not to stop there. To become better every time. Because that's the only way. There is no other way. That's the only way that we will get close to God. As Jesus told us. Have a good night. Sleep well.